Hey everyone, this is a video response. Now, I've seen so many of these, I'm not sure the originator. I believe it's Planet Retro or Retro Planet. I'll go ahead and link him in the description. This is for your top six or favorite six Genesis games. I've seen people answer it slightly different ways. It might be like the best six in their collection or the ones they're most nostalgic about. So I kind of went with the ones I'm more nostalgic about. Some will be really good for their genre, but there'll be others that are better. There's the first entry though is just too new to make it, but it has easily jumped to be one of my favorite Genesis games, and that is Xeno Crisis. If I can get Black Magic's DaVinci Resolve to work, I'll put some gameplay footage up. But this is an excellent, excellent action shooter. Now, I'm really not that big of a fan of Smash TV and Total Carnage, but this does it just right. Mainly, I think, because of the upgrade elements as well as the ability to dodge, which adds just that extra layer of strategy and skill to it. But yeah, that is easily one of my favorite Genesis games, but just too new. So I'm going to go ahead and try to go in a rough order here. The first is, now, I mentioned this before, I did not have a Genesis for quite a while growing up. My friends did, however. And every time they came over, I would have them bring Sonic. Now, I wasn't so much a fan of Sonic, like the game, as I was the experience. Because when you're used to an NES, being able to play Sonic is just, the colors are so much more vibrant. It's so much faster. But I was never a huge fan of platformers, although I do enjoy the Mario games. I think that's down more to just their quality. However, Sonic 1 and 2 are not on this list, as much as they mean a lot to me just because I got it with the system and, my friends bringing Sonic 1 over for quite a while before I finally got one. Yeah, I have really fond memories of those, but this came about even earlier because my parents let us rent a Genesis. And back then, that was a big deal because you had to put a significant deposit down on it. And we got to play Revenge of Shinobi. Now, I am not very good at this game, and like I said, this might be considered an action platformer, or I was going to say platformer. It's more action platformer. In reality, aren't most action platformers? But this one really it seemed like I was playing an arcade game. I couldn't believe it. It was so much fun. I even videotaped my brother and my dad playing it because I wanted to just watch it again when we had to get rid of the system or return the system. So it still holds up today. I might prefer Part 3, but this is still an excellent, excellent title. I enjoyed it so much that I went ahead and grabbed an import of the earlier version that has, like, was it Spider-Man, Godzilla, just all the trademark infringing characters they later had to remove. It still holds up. Tight controls, well-placed enemies, well-designed levels, excellent weapon variety, just a lot of fun. I think everyone knows that, though. One I was really surprised to see on the original list was Captain America and the Avengers. I was a massive comic book fan growing up, and this was previewed before I had my Genesis. However, I played this in the arcade, and my brother was really big in the comics too, so he actually played this with me and the X-Men fighter, or brawler. This was so much fun. Now, the preview for this was only maybe 2 paragraphs in an EGM. I ripped the page out of that magazine and just reread the preview repeatedly. And when I got my Genesis, this was with it. I've told the story before, but my Genesis did not come with an AC adapter, so I had to wait the entire Christmas break without playing this. So I just went over the manual repeatedly, which probably explains why the manual ended up vanishing. I kept the pen, and at one point I was able to complete my copy with a separate manual. But the art in this is really good, too. It's super eye-catching. Now, you couldn't tell me this was not the arcade game when I played it back then. I knew something was a little off with the voices, but to me, it was the arcade game. It had the classic wah-ha-ha voice samples. Everything about it was fun. They had the shooter levels, which were... The whole game's a little off, but I didn't care. Like, the hit detection slightly wonky. I've read the Super Nintendo version is way, way off. I didn't even bother with it. But that is easily, I still go back to all these games, but that one holds a really fond place to me, and it's just a really fun brawler. I think the art style is really cool, too. Iron Man in particular looks great. Another early entry is Spider-Man. A friend had this and brought it over, and I had an absolute blast with it. Like I said, I was big into comics, and the graphics for this looked fantastic. I had a Spider-Man PC game where he was the size of your pinky. He was so small. So when I saw this in action, oh, it absolutely blew me away. The web slinging, they got it surprisingly how good the web slinging is for such an early title. Because when did this come out? 1991. And they were able to get the momentum down. Like I said, the graphics look great. Now, it's a bit basic because it is so old. But for an early comic book title, yeah, this was aces. I'll still go back to this because I have such fond memories of it. You can obviously play better Spider-Man games. That's one superhero that they've really nailed his games for like 15 years now. But for just to take a trip back in nostalgia, that's definitely one of them. Now, this one kind of showed me there was more than just Street Fighter, and that is Fatal Fury 2. I remember renting this from a video store, not really knowing what it was. Now, I knew SNK, but I didn't really. There was an arcade machine at a Kroger's that was a 4-slot, and they had Samurai Showdown, King of the Monsters. I forgot the other two games, maybe Nom 75 and something else. And later, the Aladdin's Castle got a Samurai Showdown. But I was vaguely aware that they were a company that made fighting games. I didn't know they made home games. And I saw Takara on this, and I thought, it looks a lot like that Neo Geo game. And, obviously it is. But, when I was younger, I had a really hard time understanding publishers and developers. That did not click with me. I knew Capcom and Konami, Sega and Nintendo. And beyond that, it was like, incomprehensible. But this is actually a pretty solid conversion for what it is. So I brought this home, not really expecting much. And I actually remember the day because my mom got me Burger King. And so I was on cloud 9. It was a Friday. I grabbed this, had some Burger King, and within 5 minutes of playing this, I was actually blown away. The controls were tight. The characters were cool. There was a ton of moves. And, it was the first time that was like, there's more than Street Fighter 2 out there. And I played pretty much any Takara-SNK conversion I could get my hands on after this. But this one holds a special place. And for some bizarre reason, it's heavily bootlegged. The manual of this is a little rough, and I've tried to buy it for years, and it either comes up as damaged or as a reproduction. But you can find a lot of reproduction carts of that, and I'm not sure why, because just this original cart isn't much money, so I'm not sure why they would go to all the trouble to reproduce it. But excellent conversion. Obviously, it's a very pared down version of the game, but for being a Genesis title, really, really well done. This is another one that really blew me away. Gunstar Heroes. Obviously, this is one of the ones that holds up extremely well today. I really couldn't believe it when I played it, and this was one of the first times I took notice of a company, which was Treasure, because I had to see who made this. I rented it on a whim and was completely addicted the entire weekend. It's simple things like switching weapons feels so unique and makes the game feel different. It's like I was playing multiple action games in one. The controls were super tight. The enemies were fun. The weapons were a blast. But it was an excellent game then. It's an excellent game now. Even the Game Boy version is really fun. But yeah, this is, or was it Game Gear? I think it's Game. There's a version of each actually. But yeah, the handheld one's really fun. I say Game Boy. This was just an absolute delight. Still holds up. So thumbs up to that one. This is the newest entry, and it's still pretty old. And that's Ranger X. I'm not sure why this doesn't get mentioned as much as it should. Now, I'm actually very bad at this because it's got a very unique control system where it takes momentum into account. So controlling the mech takes some getting used to. Obviously, I've never completely acclimated to it if I'm still bad at it. But this is just a great action title. It's got everything, and I'm just like I said, it's this and Android Assault for the Sega CD or two Genesis, dash Sega CD games. I would expect to see more of. I think this is actually kind of expensive in Japan because on eBay the import copy goes for over $100. You can get this for about $40 here. I'm not sure why it's overlooked. Maybe there's just a better mech game I haven't played for the Genesis, but for me, it's great. Your robot changes forms, so you have to adjust on the fly to the different control mechanics. Great looking enemies. The screenshots are just way too small, so I hope I get some gameplay footage of this up. But yeah, this is an absolute must play. And that rounds out my 6 go-to Genesis games. Like I said, heavily on nostalgia because I was so big into comic books growing up. Spider-Man and the Avengers hold very special places in my heart. Gunstar Heroes and Shinobi and Ranger X are just well-designed games that have definitely stood the test of time. And Xeno Crisis, please play that. I mean, it's coming out on every system. I have every version pre-ordered, in addition to having the Genesis version. But thanks for watching. And you're supposed to tag people, but since I wasn't tagged, whoever wants to do this, please feel free because it's also an open tag. So, Emperor Fox or McFly or anyone who wants to do it, let me know your 6 go-to Genesis games in your collection. The rules were you have to either own it or have it a way to play it through emulation. So whatever anyone wants to do, I'd be happy to watch. And thanks for checking out the video.